So it ushered my soul death. And today, I hoped I would hear the song again. Now, like anybody, if any of you have ever experienced a dark night of the soul, they're not lying when they say that it's dark. They're not lying when they say it's a death. And it's a repeated death, and sometimes it feels like a very brutal, painful death. And it's because of all the illusions that we cling to about who and what we think that we are. We have to let go of those things. And toward the end of this, if I say I was in it for roughly 3 years, the last third of it was spent by me interacting physically with my twin. The first third of it was me finding myself as a shaman, opening up my stomach portal, and opening my heart portal for exploration. When I would begin the second third, that is when I met my twin. I just considered him to be my masculine self, though. The last third of it, though, was me interacting physically with my twin. And then as I was writing my books, I realized that I have been interacting with my twin since right after the church experience. It was just on an unconscious way, but if I look back, I could see certain things that happened where we interacted. I just wasn't consciously aware of what was going on. So when the man plays taps today, I'm wondering, because it's really odd, I just have this feeling I want to hear this song. Before, I've always dreaded this song. What am I going to experience when I hear it? And so I'm asking, what am I going to feel? The song plays and I'm paying attention. First, I don't feel anything. It's such a ubiquitous tune in my head that somebody doesn't have to play more than like 2 notes for me to know what the song is. And yet here we are through pretty much the first stanza or whatever, and I'm just not really feeling anything. So then, because I'm just observing, I started noticing this feeling coming up within me. And it's a feeling of joy. It's a feeling of peace. My heart space has been opening. I mean, it opened a few years ago where I gained access to it, but I had to learn to navigate through the heart space. Then I had to enter into a phase when I physically met my twin, where I had to allow all of my illusions to be dashed. In essence, I had to allow my heart space to kill me. Okay? And what that means is that I had to enter into such a deep level of despair and just questioning what was even the point of life and going on, because of all of the lies and illusions that I saw around me, how everything just seemed false and I was false, and just really what was the point of life. So since Easter, I knew it was about the resurrection. Like I said, the 33 and the dove kept popping up. And Jesus had been with me really strongly, getting me to go back to church, particularly on the 1st of February. There's a dove right now. And so I did, and Easter was that time, though, where if my heart space was opened and I had been navigating it, now my heart space was starting to bloom. Life was blossoming within me. About the same time, guess what? I started feeling the symptoms of pregnancy. So I didn't realize that the life I was feeling growing within me was actually the life I was feeling of being restored to living again. Kind of odd. I also realized today that that feeling is my inner child. Because that pregnancy feeling has to do with the opening of the first portal I discovered. And this was during the first part of my shamanic path, or my dark night of the soul journey. First third, and that I discovered the stomach portal, and I opened it. And what that meant is I was able to now access the collective unconscious. I was able to access the astral realms, spirit world communication, and I knew that this was connected to the mother. I just didn't quite know how. And so it was often associated with pregnancy-like symptoms, and I think that's why it took me a while to grasp this one. But this one became so intense I couldn't ignore it. And then just today I realized it was my inner child, because a few days ago she became the jaguar. She became my life totem. She made the decision that she was actually going to guide me now, rather than just throwing a tantrum over the life that she lost. That somehow I was responsible for, because I had to grow up and had a life to live. So we've done a lot of healing each other. And we finally entered into a mutual relationship of creation. And so that was what happened today. Was we finally entered into that marriage. So where there was my heart space starting to unfold and develop around Easter, today it went into a full-on opening. I don't know if you've ever seen those time-lapse videos of a flower opening, like especially like a rose with something with lots of petals. This is what this looked like in my mind's eye. And so as I'm hearing taps, and I realize that there's this joy that's coming into my being, I am seeing in my mind's eye this flower that's just bursting open. And it just keeps bursting and bursting. And it's like, is it possible that this flower can just keep opening? Deeper levels of color and depth, and I can't even describe it. It was amazing though. So, I went from a song creating despair and a deep sense of forlornness, longing, and in my books, this event characterized the loss of my twin, because we had been interacting for a few months, and this was the end of my first book, and I realized that there was this longing that was born at that time, and in my book it came across as the loss of my twin, because he decided to go and jump into a body so that way I could find him. So for the second third of my journey, I was without my twin. You know, and when I found my masculine self, it was quite funny, because it wasn't actually my twin. It was his higher self. There's a hierarchy, a spiritual hierarchy of us. So like we humans have a higher self. Our higher self has a higher self. His higher self had become my spirit guide. And so he was standing in for his lower self, who is my twin, who is Pali's twin. So this is Samba. He was standing in for Samba. And I knew that he wasn't my twin. And I suddenly figured out why I felt such a deceptive energy, but loving energy about him at the same time. And that was because he was just a stand-in. But the message for me was I had to find this twin. And I didn't really know what that meant. I just had to find the twin. So fast forward like a year later, and I finally do meet somebody who just takes me to a completely new level of experience. Spiritual experience and ecstasy. And I finally, somebody mentioned something about the twin flame. And wow, that was it. That explained it perfectly. And so I had found Samba. And I'm not sure what's going on with that. I can't talk to Samba right now. In fact, 3 days ago when Pilli, that's who I call her, Pilli is my child, inner child, became the jaguar. And she decided that she was going to watch over me. She did for the third time. Well, the first time I accidentally did, which was cut off my spirit realm communication. And oddly enough, if I ever needed any confirmation that I was not crazy and was actually speaking to spirits, see, this was the end of the first phase of my, shamanic, unfolding. If I ever needed confirmation that I wasn't crazy, suddenly having all circuits cut off and not being able to communicate if I even wanted to, that was the confirmation I needed. It was very ironic and sad that I couldn't believe in it. I couldn't wholeheartedly believe in it while I had it. And it wasn't until I lost it that I knew what I had lost. I did get it back. But there was the caveat there if I had to realize that I wasn't completely helpless. And that there was a part of me. And I started realizing it was my animal self that had all these instincts, had all this awareness that I needed to learn to tap into. And so that's when Stomach Portal was born. Because I had to learn to start to understand that perspective. And now, all these couple years later, that stomach portal finally matured. So I could say that it was my heart that was opening like this. But in reality, it was my stomach portal that was blossoming like this. And the heart was there too. I don't know, it gets confusing. But, so the second time this shutdown in communication with the spirit realm happened, I did it. Because I had found my twin. And I knew he was Samba. Okay, but I needed to get to Samba. I needed to get to my twin. And this is when things started tanking with us. And I didn't quite understand what was going on other than I couldn't lose this. And I had to do whatever was possible. And the only thing I could see, and he gravely misinterpreted this, and I actually don't blame him for misinterpreting it because of how it sounds. I said I had to lower myself to get to him. And that has many layers, but the idea was that I knew I had to lower my vibration, shut off my ability to communicate with the spirit realm, and become more human. I didn't realize I was actually cutting off communication with my higher self, Pali. And in tandem, I was cutting off communication with Samba and didn't realize it. Okay. So the third time this happened, because I got it back at solstice, like 6 months later. Because apparently I had found what I needed to find. I don't know what that was. I'm still working on that one. I think it was the key to open up the headspace, but I'm not sure because there's 3 spaces that we've got. And then, so Pilli, my child self now, initiated the third one, and that's what I'm in right now. She says, I'm protecting you, and we've got a job to do, and I can't have you getting distracted by Samba. Or Pali, for that matter. So I'm shutting them out. Talk about yeah, she's just like me. But it's the first time that she took charge of me. You know, and we're actively co-creating a future together. It's this idea of I can't rely on Pali because there's some very grave problems with relying on the higher self that I'll explain in other videos. Just like I can't rely on Samba. Because the fact is, as much as I'm attracted to Samba, he's still embodied in a human. Pali is still embodied in a human. And it's the human experience that we're here to have, not experiences between our higher selves. Pali and Samba can go play with each other as long as they want to. But what they want is the human experience between Papillion and my twin I call Genie. Okay, Papillion being me, Genie being my twin flame. Okay, so this is what Pali and Samba want. Now my child self, that we have finally managed to find a way to work together, I said, okay, I'm protecting you now, Mama. And so I don't know if I quite see her wisdom, other than the fact I know it's from the mother. I know she is fully embracing the mother energy now. And she is embracing her animal instincts and trying to get me to embrace mine. Because I honestly think that this is the only way to find my twin. Because we have to find each other as humans. The only way to do that is to find my animal self. Pilli understands this. And is saying, basically, you're so arrogant and so dense. The only way to get this through to you is to cut you off from your ability to communicate with the spirit realm. So, oh gosh, 17 minutes. Wow. See, I just babble. I'm the Tower of Babel. Bye.